Hello out there, YouTube. It's me, Ryunba, once again with my review of last night's new episode of Total Drama that it presents the Ridonculous Race. None down, 18 to go, Part 2. You've seen me reviewing Part 1 just the last time I was on here, so here's what. Okay. Well, first of all, long story short, here's a spoiler for you. This episode saw us bidding farewell to Leonard and Tammy, the LARPers. Confounded camera. Good thing I checked that. Here we go. Oh, I do wish that we'd seen more of Tammy actually more of Tammy actually saying and doing things. Girl geeks forever. I suppose it was inevitable. Granted, I was pretty mad the first time I saw it because here we are once again using the geeks as the butt of the jokes and saying that none of us live in reality and all that, and we're socially maladjusted. Can't tell the difference between the game and the real world. But, after taking some time to think, I suppose the writer's decision to cut Leonard and Tammy was for the best. Simply because they'd written him that way already for Pocateo Island. Leonard was always meant to be a mean joke that didn't really get any screen time or characterization or what have you. He never was meant to be liked by anyone. He was just meant to perpetuate stereotypes and be a mean joke, like I said. He barely did anything useful at all during his first season, so there was no way they'd let him gain any positive fan support the way some people like Harold did in like season 1 and 2. They never meant for him to grow as a character and show new facets of himself. But he did better this time than he did on Pocateo Island. There, he tried to use his so-called magic for nearly everything, which ultimately cost him the game. Here, he and Tammy only tried magic as their last resort. The result was still the same, but it was nice to see that Leonard indeed has the ability to learn to a certain extent. He even tried to form an alliance. And speaking of which, I was glad to see that Crimson and Ennui at least opened their mouths this time when they rejected him. Still can't wait to see them actually talk. It is, and I'll admit that it's not bad to see Leonard having at least one friend this time around. Sugar didn't really count because she was a dum-dum. Thus far, the show's challenges seem quite realistic and down to earth, a far cry from what we've gotten used to over the last 3 years or so. It helps us to think of these characters as real people when they aren't trying to say outrun something impossible like the giant robotic alien from TDA or the various mutants of Wawanakwa. Don also makes her a much better host than Chris McLean, though, paradoxically, he loses out on a little bit of characterization because of that. He's essentially the TV show hosting equivalent of that little box that they occasionally break off into in certain manga to explain the science behind attacks and such. But hey, at least he isn't an out-and-out sadist, right? Anyone? Right? This episode made me kinda hate Dwayne. From the way he kept pushing the camel and hitting it like a horse to make it go faster and try and make it go faster and impress his son, to his continued not listening to said son and trying to be cool to his own detriment. Not to mention his being the reason they ranked almost dead last. I'm hoping that either Junior calls the old man out or else they get sent home darn quick. Junior doesn't even want to be there. Just a misguided attempt by a lame dad who should just let things stay the way they are and not try so hard. Literally, his only good moment for the episode was when he shotgunned the Moroccan stew with a wild animal cry. Even Junior was impressed. Which he promptly ruined by downing it too fast, overloading his system, and being stricken with temporary blindness. Which, by the way, would not have been a real result. As far as I've heard, he would have more likely bled from his nose, been stricken with shortness of breath, or even passed out, but temporary blindness from spices kinda came out of left field, at least to my knowledge. The show's humor is also getting back to the roots of early Total Drama. Whether it be the efforts of the cadets to be understood by use of the salesman, or Owen's desperate drinking of the camel spit to cool his thirst, and the ensuing somehow obligatory vomiting scene, You can see that the writers haven't forgotten how to try and make people laugh. I myself did not actually laugh, but I came close. And that's some real praise coming from me. I was quite surprised to see that the tennis rivals weren't the first ones eliminated, because, as I said before, seeing one old guy getting kicked off of one reality TV show in the past made me think they'd all be like that. What was more surprising was that they didn't really do anything to make them seem worth keeping around. Aside from not coming in last this time. Granted, the same thing goes for the Adversity Twins, but at least they had some screen time and did some funny things. Carrie's thing for Devon was as cute as ever, and not just because I'm a fan of both her design and of Christy Fairley. But so far, everyone still seems to be the flat, standard caricatures that they've always been since episode 1. If we don't see any actual growth in character relationships, as in someone standing up to someone, etc., then I will be profoundly disappointed. This episode makes twice now that MacArthur has had to carry Sanders during a challenge. That doesn't seem fair to me. A good relationship should have both partners carrying equal weight, no pun intended. So far, MacArthur seems to be the only one doing any of the hard stuff, or saying or doing anything that's interesting at all. And anyone who ships them with anyone in a heterosexual way is a freaking moron! Let's hope they stay mostly involved with each other, if only for the sake of the Femslash fandom. And that being said, the next episode should air in about a half hour. First one that isn't part of the two-part pilot thing, so let's hope we continue to see some more quality from those guys at Fresh TV. Let me just open the video camera function and turning off in 1, 2, 3.